Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. So for today's video, I will be doing my second installment of my review of the Pat McGrath Celestial Divinity Mothership Mega palette. So in my first review, link down below, I went into these first two columns here, which comprise the Dark Galaxy palette from the Star Wars collection that Pat McGrath previously released. And in today's look, I'll be dipping into the second Star Wars palette, so Galactic Gold, which are the last two columns in the palette. And then in a future video, I'll be going into these middle two columns, which are unique to this palette. You should definitely check out my first video if you want to hear my overall thoughts and impressions about this palette. Spoiler alert, I love this palette. Highly recommend. But for today's video, we're going to focus a little bit more on the Galactic Gold side of things. So I'm going to do some swatches, show you this makeup look, and also just give you my overall impressions of Galactic Gold. So if you're interested in hearing more, just stick around. So without further ado, let's get into these swatches. So again, we're going to be going into these two columns here, so I'm just going to swatch left to right, top to bottom. The first shade we have is Violet Void, and this is described as a deepened violet with pink flash. This is kind of similar to some of the shades in the Dark Galaxy side in that you do have this pretty prominent pink glitter in it, but it's in a really beautiful violet blue shade. And then next up we have Gold Standard, which is described as a luminous 24 karat gold. And that's a very apt description because this is really a strong yellow gold. Next up we have Bronze, which is described as a brilliant metallic bronze, so very straightforward. I was kind of surprised when I first saw the name for this shade because Pat McGrath has so many different bronzes, but this is, you know, I guess just the archetypal bronze shade. Next we have Electron, which is described as a dual chrome rose bronze with a glittering blue flash. And this is one of my favorite shades in the whole palette. It is just incredibly beautiful. Now for the last row, we have Galactic Gold, the namesake of this palette, and this is a dual chrome platinum with golden chartreuse finish. Very unique and gorgeous shade. And then the final shade, which is actually my favorite shade in this entire palette, not just in the Galactic Gold section, which is Corruption, which is a fiery dual chrome bronze. So here we are with the shades in the palette. It's really gorgeous. I love all these shades, and I wouldn't necessarily say putting them all together like I did today is the best look. These are all very high impact shades that would be really a showstopper as part of another look. With the swatches out of the way, let's go straight into the makeup look. So to start off today's look, I'm going to be going into this shade over here, which is called Corruption and is my favorite shade in the entire palette. And I'll be using my Wayne Goss No. 4 brush. This is a shimmery metallic shade, but with this kind of very smooth metallic from Pat McGrath, you can still use it in your crease area like a matte. So that's one thing I really like about her formula and does make the palette more versatile because you do have a lot of those shimmer shades that you can still use as a matte and just amplify the number of looks that you can do. Okay, so with that first shade down, I know we're getting a little bit of kind of a strong angle, but I'll eventually blend things out a little bit more. To first just deepen things though, I'm going to go into this shade over here, which is Violet Void, since that's the deepest shade in this set of 6. So I'm gonna go in with my same Wayne Goss No. 4 brush and just slowly build that up because it is quite a strong pigmented shimmery shade. I'm just going to concentrate this in the outer third. And I really love using this brush for this kind of application because it just really gives you a lot of precision. There we go. So now we have a little bit more depth to this look, and even just with these two shades, because they're both so shimmery and dual chrome in a way, I think you can really build an interesting look. But we're going to try to get all 6 shades on here. So next I'm going to go into Electron over here. I'm just going to use that same Wayne Goss number 4 brush, and I'm going to build this into just a little bit of a halo eye. So I'm going to put this both on the inner corner and also the outer portion of the lid. And Electron is one of the most beautiful shades, in my opinion, in this palette. So I'm going to leave the middle blank, but just blur this into where Violet Void ends, but also connect it to where the inner corner is. Kind of in this like U shape. Alrighty, so now that we have the basics of that halo down, I'm going to fill in the center with a finger. So I'm going to go into this bronze shade over here and just dab that all over that blank space in the middle. So that's bronze. So I want to make sure that is blended out. So once again, with my Wayne Goss number 4, I'm just going to run this along the edges of bronze since it is quite a different shade than Electron. So I just want to make sure it's kind of blended in. And now just to further amplify this and also to just get more shades on my lid, I'm also gonna just dip in lightly into Gold Standard and just get a tiny bit of that and plop that right in the center. There we go. So this is a kind of intense, almost snake eye effect, just given how much it really condenses down in the center, but I think it's an intriguing look. Let's just put it that way. So I'm gonna just go in now and do a final little blend just to make sure everything coheres nicely together. And now for the lower lash line. I'm going to start with my Esom G27 brush. And one slightly tricky aspect of this palette, or the 6-pan, is there are no mattes, but that's okay. I'm going to just first dip into Violet Void and see if we can get that on the outer corner just to provide some depth for this look. So I just have a tiny bit of that on this brush, and it is very shimmery, a lot of pink particles, but I think it still kind of works on this small brush. So cleaning off that brush, I'm gonna go in now with some Electron and just sweep a light layer of that inward just to make the look similar to the one above. Electron has less base pigment though, so you're not gonna see that as clearly. And then I'm gonna go in with some of the Gold Standard shade just to further match the top. Interesting, when you blend Gold Standard on top of Electron, it looks like more of a pale gold. And now to finish off this look, I'm going to go in with my Refer number 3 brush and go into Galactic Gold, the namesake of this palette, and use that for my inner corner highlight. It's a bit of a flaky shade, so I'm gonna have to just carefully build it up. Definitely a shade that would normally be best applied with a finger. I'm gonna go in now with some eyeliner just to kind of tie the whole look together. So that's the eyeshadow look of the day. Let me know what you guys think. I think it's a pretty fun look. It's definitely a looker, to say the least. It's the most intense halo eye I've ever done. Usually if I'm going to do a halo eye, which is not that often anyway, but I wouldn't use such strong contrasting colors. I think the bronze and the gold really contrast a lot with the purple, which makes sense because they're kind of opposite sides of the color wheel, but I think it does just give this a really unique feel to this look and really leverages the uniqueness of this palette. So let's go ahead and finish off the rest of this makeup look. So I'm going to first go in with my Gucci bronzer in the shade 2 just to add a little bit more dimension to my face. So I have my Refer number 5 brush and I'm just going to buff that in. Maybe picked up a little bit too much in that initial application, but it's okay. So my previous review where I was using the shadows from the Dark Galaxy side of this palette, I decided to go with Pat McGrath's Unnatural Natural to have sort of a mahogany deep shade that really matched the colors in the look. But I think for today's look, I'm going to try to go in a different direction and choose a nude lipstick. So I have here two options. I have my Charlotte Tilbury Yes Honey lipstick, and I have my Natasha Denona I Need a Nude in the shade Sammy. So I think I'm gonna first try out my Charlotte Tilbury lipstick, since this is a warm beige tone, so maybe it'll go well with the kind of golden vibe that we have. So this is what the lipstick looks in the bullet, and I still need to get a dark lip liner at some point so I can better make use of this lipstick, but let's go ahead and just see how it looks directly on the lips. So there it is on the lips. I definitely think if I had a bit of a sort of mid-toned brown liner, it might look just a little bit better, a bit more dimensional. But overall, I'm actually a fan of how the warm beige tones of this lipstick complement the overall aesthetic. And given how intense the eyes are, I think it's good that this lip sort of recedes a little bit more in the background and doesn't detract from the attention around the eyes. So kind of a very different vibe than the lip that I went with last time, but I hope this gives you guys more ideas in terms of possible directions in which to take your look with this palette. With the makeup look done, let's go into my overall thoughts about this Galactic Gold side of this palette. So I'll say overall that actually this is my favorite six pan of the three. This is probably my most favorite, followed by middle, followed by least favorite. That said, I love all three of these. I still love Dark Galaxy, no shade against that side. But the reason I really love Galactic Gold is I feel like it just has a lot of the most unique and beautiful shades that are still quite workable. So Corruption over here is my favorite shade in this entire palette. I've just never seen a shade that is quite this unique. I don't know if you can see the flip very well, but it goes from this sort of bronzy shade to this really beautiful, almost kind of burnt burgundy red shade, and it's just so unique and multidimensional. I feel like on the lid you also just, it almost looks like a trio chrome, even though I think it's technically just a dual chrome. But it's just so beautiful. Also with the Galactic Gold shade, if you have a lot of Pat McGrath palettes already, you're probably like me kind of sick of all of the golds that she includes, but this gold is very unique and very much worth it. So the base is really platinum, but then it has this sort of beautiful, it's funny, I feel like in different lights it almost looks like kind of pinky peach or almost a tiny bit green, and also gold. So there's a lot of dimension in this shade, even though it might just kind of look like a white gold in pan. I'm also a little bit, jaded with all the bronze shades she includes in her palettes, but this one has just such a smooth texture. It makes it really easy to work with. If you saw my other review, you know that I find these two bronze shades to look extremely similar on the lids, but I prefer bronze over Bronze Nebula just because Bronze Nebula is a lot more flaky and textured and just a little bit harder to work with, a lot more fallout. Electron is also just, in my opinion, one of the most beautiful shades in this entire palette. So it has a beautiful flip between pink, purple, and blue, just really amazing. And the other day I saw Michelle Wong apply this just all over her lid. It's just a one and done shadow. And before I knew what shade it was, I was just so mesmerized. And I was shocked to hear that it was only one shade, and that's just because this shade has so much dimension to it. It has such a strong flip. Like right now in the camera, I think it mostly looks blue, but for me looking at it from this angle, I see it as a really strong magenta. So really amazing flip. And then Violet Void and Smoked Amethyst kind of are similar to me in terms of deepening shades, but Violet Void does just have such a beautiful blue to it that I find just really fascinating, because blues are often a little bit more tricky to work with. But I think for this one, something about the formula and also the fact that it has that pink glitter in it just makes it really easy to integrate in looks. I would say the only shade in this set of 6 that I'm not a huge fan of is the gold standard shade, and that's just a personal taste thing. I just don't really gravitate a lot towards yellow golds. That's just not something I use a lot. And also, I feel like Pat McGrath includes yellow golds in basically all of her palettes. So whereas Galactic Gold is a very unique gold offering, Gold Standard is, in my opinion, just a lot more common among my Pat McGrath palettes, and also honestly my Natasha Denona palettes as well. But overall, I am very happy with this palette and would definitely recommend it to anyone. I hope you guys stick around for my third and final installment of this review series that will cover the middle 2 columns of this palette. And if you haven't already checked out my Dark Galaxy review, I hope you'll also check that out. But thank you guys so much for joining me, and I'll catch you next time. Bye!